Hello everyone! Hi, welcome to World of Yoga Wednesday! Yay! My name's Ashley. If you don't know me, I'm the yogi next door, and this is Energy Flow Yoga, where I come on Instagram Live once per week for World of Yoga Wednesday, teaching you all something about the world of yoga, something that relates to yoga or I think can be better understood or improved by yoga. And this week is something super important to me personally, and I think can be important to so many women in my life, friends, family, maybe people I don't even know yet. And that is how yoga and menstrual health go hand in hand. So just to get started today, I have my notes over here on the side because I don't want to forget anything. So just in case you're wondering, like, why does she keep looking over there? I have my computer here. But just to cover kind of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to discuss just briefly explaining the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. And if you're like me, you may not have even realized there were 4 phases. Like, you may not even have known. Hi Betsy. You may not even have realized that there are 4 distinct phases in the menstrual cycle. Because I think many people, especially if you grew up in the United States, I'm not exactly sure other places, but if you grew up in the States and you went to a public school especially, might be even worse at private school actually, but you probably had a very brief sex ed that kind of tell you the names for all the parts, the basic things, how to work, how you get pregnant, and some very general information about birth control, and that's pretty much it. That's what you get. That's what you learn. And luckily for me, I had a super awesome mom who like explained how our ovaries work and like how like why menstruation occurs. But I still didn't even know there were 4 different phases. And I think understanding each of these phases, what's going on in your body, what's going on with your hormones, and in turn, what then affects your mood, your energy levels, all of that good stuff, and then how we can use yoga to help us live with a little more flow, live with a little more harmony and balance in our lives. So we're going to be talking briefly about what are the 4 phases, and then what's happening in our body during each of those phases. We'll then talk about how yoga can be useful in each phase, and specifically like what type of yoga is good during each phase. And then also just some of the benefits of yoga that you can see how it relates to every human's health, but especially women, because we have this huge fluctuation of hormones over our cycle, which, might be, on average, you always say 28 days, but could be, 30 days, 32 days, between 28 and 34 days typically is our average cycle of hormones, this big circle that comes all the way around basically every single month. So how we can use yoga to live with a little more harmony in our life, not be constantly pushing or forcing things, but maybe honoring our bodies and honoring our minds a bit more. So if you're tuning in and this is something you know about, if you know a lot about the menstrual cycle, if you know a lot about hormones, I'd love to have your input and hear what you have to say. If this is all completely new information and you're like, what is she talking about? 4 phases. Like, I know about menstruation and maybe ovulation. That's kind of like the 2 big ones that people consistently hear about. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, stay tuned, and then I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings about what I bring up. So, sorry, my throat is super dry today, so gotta get that water. Always stay hydrated. All right, so the first phase, which is considered the beginning of our cycle, day 1, is our menstrual phase. This is when menstruation is actually taking place. This is when you have your period. On average, for most women, lasts between 4 and 7 days. Can be shorter, could be longer. So on a very technical level, what is happening inside your body? Your body is shedding your uterine lining. That's the actual blood and clots and tissue that's coming out. What's happening on a hormonal level is your estrogen and progesterone levels are dropped. So they're at their lowest point for the entire month. So this low hormone levels means you are experiencing very low energy levels. I'm sure anyone who has experienced a period probably can, this is all sounding like very common sense. You're like, yes, I know what a period is, because this is probably the most known phase out of the 4 phases. Everyone has heard of periods. Everyone, half the population probably has experienced a period. And this is pretty obvious what I'm going to say, like what's going on in your body, but it will make more sense to explain things as we move through all the other 3 phases that are potentially not as well known or understood. So during your menstrual phase, it's common to be exhausted, be super tired, and that low energy levels because of our low estrogen, low progesterone hormone levels. Also normal to experience, and I shouldn't say normal, I should say common to experience cramps, bloating, headaches, extreme fatigue, irritability, changes in your mood, changes in your sexual appetite, your mood swings, tender breasts, low back pain, stomach pain, digestive issues. The list kind of goes on and on here, and you can see why you might be feeling irritable because you're experiencing all of these physical as well as emotional symptoms. So the way that yoga can help us when we're experiencing our menstrual phase or during our period is to help us get that rest and recuperation that we really need. I think so often in our society, in Western society especially, we are so focused on the go, 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 push, 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 keep going. If you're not being productive, you're being nothing, right? We don't prioritize, as a culture, we don't prioritize rest. We don't necessarily see the benefits of rest outlined, but it's really crucial to our health. It's crucial to get that rest and that restorative energy in order to build back up. And it's actually really part of our natural cycle as women. It can be a little more difficult for men to relate to potentially because men's hormone cycle is basically a 24-hour cycle, whereas women's can be 28, about 30 days. So for men to understand this ebb and flow of our hormones and our energy can be a little more tricky, but women can definitely relate. There are some days of the month, there are some even a week or 2 weeks where your energy is lower. And instead of pushing through that, what if we honor that, embracing that need for rest so that we can then, when our energy rises back up, push even harder during those times. You'll ask any professional athlete, any weightlifter, trainer, they all will say rest is essential. Without rest, you cannot, when you don't prioritize rest, you will not see the gains. The gains is the weightlifting thing. If you don't have rest, you won't see the gains. If you don't have rest, you won't see as much growth. So very clearly outlined, and you can see that as kind of a law with our hormones. Our hormones are telling us to rest, slow down, and that's exactly what we should be doing during menstrual phase. So the best type of yoga to do during menstruation is yin yoga or a restorative yoga. So a very slow-paced yoga class where you're resting in poses for a few minutes at a time, really working on releasing emotionally, mentally, energetically, resting, releasing, relaxing, deep breathing, slowing the heart rate, lowering anxiety levels, lowering cortisol or stress levels, as well as deeply stretching muscles, stretching connective tissues, tendons, etc., etc. Also can be really useful during our menstrual phase to focus more on the meditation aspect of yoga or the pranayamic practice of yoga, the breathing practice, instead of worrying about, I have to work out because otherwise I'm just gonna, gain weight or do this. No, your body actually needs rest. Just like you have to sleep every single day, you need to rest every single month. So really taking advantage, I like to think of it as not giving in to the low hormones, but taking advantage of this low hormone moment to get the most out of your rest. Really make it super relaxing and restful, and that way it's more successful, it's more useful for you. All right, so after those first 5 days of our period, oh hi, thanks for joining. We then progress to the follicular phase. So it's called the follicular phase because this is the part of your cycle where the follicles that then produce a potential egg, a potential future baby, are developing. So this is technically the follicular, that's hard to say, follicular phase starts on the first day of menstruation. So technically it starts on the first day of your period and continues all the way until ovulation, which is the third phase. So there is some overlap between the menstrual phase and the follicular phase, but after your period ends, that's when it really starts ramping up. That's when it really starts going. So as the follicles are starting to develop, you have a surge of estrogen in your hormones. And as estrogen is surging, your energy is also surging. So with you have these rising energy levels, you start to lose and drop away and get rid of those menstrual symptoms, those negative symptoms of exhaustion, of back pain, of headaches, bloating, etc. So all of those symptoms start to fall away. You get more and more energy as this progresses. Now, obviously every woman is different, and even for the same woman, every cycle is different. Although some people might be very regulated, and others less so. But typically this will last around 7 days, 7 to 11 days. And this is as your energy is increasing, as your estrogen is increasing, your energy is increasing. This is the great time to do an upbeat vinyasa style yoga class. And it's especially good to do something like, you can do all sorts of physical activities. You can, maybe this is when you go running, you start walking, and at the beginning, right after your period, maybe you do something a little on the low to medium intensity side, and then as the follicular phase progresses, you grow more and more in intensity and difficulty of your chosen exercise activity. So this is a great time to do a vinyasa style class that's medium to high energy, and maybe something that takes a little bit more concentration or focus, because as your energy is rising, you have an increased mental focus as well as energy. You have a more of a natural openness to trying new things, to experimenting with new things, and this is the perfect time for your mind to plan and focus specific on details. So this might be the time to do a yoga workshop. Maybe you've been wanting to get your handstand, for example, a very difficult pose. People can work years on this pose. This is the perfect time of your cycle to take a workshop like that. Something that takes a lot of concentration, a lot of physical and mental energy. So that's the perfect time. This is when you can really get stuff done, kind of power through, energy's on the upswing, and you're feeling good, typically. All right, so after the follicular phase comes ovulation. This is kind of like the main event, the most exciting part of your cycle, and at the same time, the shortest part. So ovulation technically is only 1 day of your cycle. It's a 24-hour window when, as that follicle that's been developing throughout the follicular phase finally reaches that point of full development, bursts or releases 1 egg. Sometimes can happen 2 eggs. I guess that's a one potential way that you would have twins. If you were to then fertilize the eggs. But I was trying to think of a way to say that in a classy way. If you're then to get it on. I'm just kidding. Okay. So ovulation is that exciting part, the top of the mountain, the egg is released. So what does this mean for our body, our energy? This is our peak energy day. This is the 1 day in the month that just everything seems to go right. Everything seems a little bit better. You have lots of energy. You're feeling really open and connected to people around you, like maybe especially to your partner if you're in a romantic relationship, to your friends, family. You're more open, you're more connected. You might have a little more fun. This is the perfect time to try a group type class. Now, obviously, that's very difficult right now with COVID. But, in a perfect world, this would be the time to try an exciting, fun activity like a group yoga class, maybe like a group dance class, something that really helps you feel outgoing, come out of your shell, get a little, something a little exciting, a little unusual, a little fun. It could also be a good time to try something like partner yoga, if that's something your partner might be interested in, or something more on the sensual side, like a tantric yoga or Kundalini yoga, where you're really connecting to this like divine feminine energy. This is the moment to try those things, not necessarily on this exact day, because it can be hard to predict ovulation and can take a lot of practice to predict the exact day, but for a few days before and maybe even a few days after, where you're still feeling as that motion or as that moment of the hormones peaking and then starting to taper off. So kind of around this time of ovulation is when you have the most energy and you can do that high-paced power vinyasa class, like go kick ass, feel your like strong woman badass energy. This is the moment for that. All right, so after ovulation comes the beginning of that downswing. This is our luteal phase. So the follicle that released the egg during ovulation actually becomes what's called the corpus luteum, which is the thing that produces progesterone. So you might have heard of progesterone in terms of, like, you might have heard it with your birth control if you've ever taken the pill or another hormonal birth control. Progesterone is produced by the corpus luteum, so it's kind of produced of the follicle that's left over after the egg is released. So what does progesterone do? What is the point of progesterone in our body, and what does it mean for our cycle? So because progesterone starts rising here, and estrogen has a slight rise, and then kind of tapers off and then kind of stays level throughout this phase, while progesterone surges at first and then begins to fall, which will explain how and why it may or may not fall. So progesterone begins to rise because of that corpus luteum is producing the progesterone. And why? What does the progesterone do? Well, progesterone continues the thickening of the uterine lining to prepare for the possible implantation. So during ovulation, that egg is released down the fallopian tube, waiting for fertilization. So if fertilization occurs, the egg is fertilized, it then proceeds to the uterus, implants in a wall, and 40 weeks later, you got a baby. That's basically how it works. If that doesn't happen, if there is no fertilization, no implantation, or even if there is fertilization but implantation does not occur for whatever reason, the corpus luteum dissolves, the egg dissolves, which means that progesterone starts to drop. Because remember, the corpus luteum is what is producing and causing that progesterone to rise. So the uterine lining is getting nice and thick. It's creating this nice cushy environment for the egg to implant and grow. If that doesn't happen for whatever reason, then our progesterone levels start to drop. Now, what does this mean? As our estrogen is remaining at a low, basically constant level, maybe decreasing ever so slightly, progesterone is dropping. It surges and then drops kind of, I wouldn't say drastically, but kind of quickly, drastically. So what does this mean for our mind and our body? As our progesterone drops, we have decreasing energy. And this is when you start to experience those PMS or premenstrual syndromes or symptoms. We have a decreased energy. You start to feel like every day from ovulation to the day one of your cycle, you start to feel maybe more and more fatigued. You might experience tenderness or pain in your breast or swelling in your breast, because as that hormone is released, the progesterone, as it's growing, your milk ducts, actually, to get super technical, are opening to like prepare potentially for the production of milk if you were to get pregnant. Now, when that doesn't happen, obviously, you know, your breasts do not produce any milk, but when that's happening, you can experience swelling or tenderness, maybe even pain. Hopefully not, but could be pain. You also will experience during this time bloating, irritability, mood swings, potentially weight gain. This is when you might be gaining weight over your cycle. Difficulty sleeping, and that's due to the changes in your hormones. All of this is due to the changes in your hormones. So how can yoga help us? How can yoga help us during this time? As I'm like shaking the camera, sorry. So I would say at the very beginning of the luteal phase, like right after ovulation, you're still feeling the effects of the high of ovulation. So you can still engage in a maybe medium to higher, or around medium to higher end intensity vinyasa style class. But as your energy begins to slow, intuitively begin to slow down your workouts as you approach your period. So maybe at the beginning of the luteal phase, you do like a medium level vinyasa class, like our vinyasa slow flow class, where you're getting that kind of slow burn. You're not doing a super intense HIIT workout. You're not doing sprinting type of running, but it's more like a steady jog or a really long, fast-paced walk, or doing this yoga where you're stretching your body, strengthening your muscles, but you're not like super out of breath. You might be a little out of breath, but you're not like huffing and puffing and flinging sweat all over the room like you are during your power vinyasa class. It's also a nice time to begin, as you get closer to your period, begin introducing a little more of a restful practice, that meditation practice, that pranayamic breathing practice. So I kind of explained this as we went along, but why yoga? Why does yoga go hand in hand with menstrual health? And how can I specifically use yoga to feel more connected to my cycle, more healthy throughout my cycle, and not necessarily judging like, oh my God, why am I so tired this week? Well, you're supposed to be. Your body needs rest so that you can then have action. So really, when our energy is high, we can challenge ourselves with the fast-paced and difficult asana, that physical practice, the power vinyasa class, the high-intensity, high-concentration type class. And this is our prime time to build muscle, build flexibility, increase balance and focus. And then at the same time, when our energy is low, we can still use yoga. We can use yoga in the lower or the slower paced classes like yin yoga to really release mentally, physically, emotionally, focusing on meditation and pranayamic practice. So just in general, like what are some benefits of yoga? Now I could literally go on for hours about all of the benefits of yoga, but I wrote down some kind of most important benefits in relation to our menstrual health. So specifically, yoga is useful during your menstrual phase because a lot of poses focus on, or not necessarily the point of the pose, but we can use them to our advantage to reduce the pain of menstrual cramps, to reduce the pain in our back, our abdomen. Yoga helps reduce bloating because it helps improve your digestive function. So doing these type of yogic twists, which I'm gonna do a little twist right now to stretch through my back, and it always feels good to do a little twist. Helps massage all of the muscles. When we're twisting through our abdomen, these muscles are massaging our digestive organs, which helps improve their function. Yoga reduces anxiety, reduces cortisol levels, which means reduced stress. Less stress means more health. There's just so much to back that up. It cannot be denied. It cannot be argued about. It helps actually reduce the severity or the occurrence of depressive episodes if you're somebody who suffers from depression. It helps regulate our adrenal glands. So that's again to do with our stress and anxiety levels. Yoga improves strength, flexibility, balance, posture. It helps actually improve bone density, helps our cartilage flexibility, helps connective tissue strength and elasticity, helps increase blood flow, helps boost our immunity by draining the lymph gland, helps lower blood pressure, helps lower blood sugar, helps you relax by engaging our parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, you're talking about fight or flight versus that calming, relaxing energy. That's what we're going for, because that reduces stress, reduces anxiety, and welcomes a little more peace into our day. It also helps you sleep better. Who doesn't want to sleep better? Hello, guys, this is a no-brainer. Helps you breathe better, helps your breath. Typically people who practice yoga take fewer breaths per minute, which means they're slower and deeper. And this is the calming effect. Again, going back to the parasympathetic nervous system, has a calming effect on our mood, but also is more efficient. It's a more efficient use of your lungs, which helps improve lung capacity, lung strength. So that's pretty cool, and can help you get better, improve your other type of workouts as well, especially if you're someone like, well, any type of workout you need to breathe efficiently, but especially for like runners or swimmers who their lung capacity and breathing rhythm is super important, and directly affects a lot of performance. Doing yoga helps improve your breathing, which will make you run more efficiently, make you swim faster and more efficiently. So those are just some of the basic benefits of yoga, and specifically how they can relate to our menstrual health. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you're interested in what I'm talking about, because I feel super passionately about this. As women, I think we're so often taught to conform, to not necessarily ignore what our body's telling us, but to force change and to force this conformity to fit into kind of the male vision of the world. And I'm not like hating on men or saying like, oh, men made us be this way. It's not their fault. They don't know what we experience, and they don't necessarily understand what we're going through on a month-to-month basis. So when you learn more about your own health, your own body, what's going on internally, you could still ignore it, of course. You could know all of this stuff and still make unhealthy choices. But when you're informed, you have the chance to make a healthy choice, to make a better choice for your mind and your body. And of course, I think that includes yoga. That includes welcoming yoga into your life, whether it's the physical practice, whether it's simply the meditation practice, teaching yourself a little bit more patience, teaching yourself to listen, to tune in and honor your body and your mind a little bit more, even a tiny bit more, can make a big difference. So with all of that being said, if this is something you want to learn more about, we have a really awesome workshop coming up tomorrow. And if you can't make it live, you can still have access to the recording. So this is our yoga and menstrual health workshop. It's all about using yoga specifically in each phase. So the 4 phases I just described, we'll be going over those in a little bit even more detail in the workshop. And then also having the chance to practice a short little mini flow, so 15-minute yoga practice, asana, physical practice, and meditation practice that is designed for each phase. So we'll do 4 different flows, 10 to 15 minutes each, helping you kind of get the most benefits out of each phase, because each phase is necessary, each phase is beneficial, each phase is super important. And when we can connect and honor each phase authentically, that's when we have the best results. That's when we live in most harmony in our lives, and when we have the most flow, when we are able to take advantage of our energy in the best way. So that is taking place tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time to 7:30 live on the website. And then if you can't make it live, or even if you do make it live and you want to revisit the practice as you move throughout your cycle, it'll be available recorded after, a whole month after you join us. So you'll have plenty of time to go back and practice the flows in real time when you're in that phase of your cycle. So really cool opportunity to get a little bit more connected to your body, to everything going on, and to honor that. So I can't wait for you all to join me. I would love to hear your comments, questions, suggestions. So feel free to comment here if you're watching the replay, or to message me privately if it's something you don't really feel like putting out there in like a public comment on Instagram. I also am going to comment in the post when I post this replay, I'm going to put a few resources that can help you learn even more about your cycle, more about your menstrual health. This fall, I took an amazing course with this wonderful lady called Flow Create, and it was all about learning about our 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, and then how we can connect with each phase and really flow easier in our life, not just physically, but like in our work life, in our relationships arena, like how we can take advantage of each part of our phase to kind of like get the best out of ourselves. So that is an amazing program. Her name's Sarah Blake. Her program is called Flow Create, and I believe she has a program coming up. I think it starts in February, but don't quote me on that, because I don't know if it's officially been announced yet, but it is coming up within a few months at least. So I definitely encourage you to sign up for that. It was an amazing program. I can't recommend it enough. And I learned so much about, like, she inspired me so much about just honoring my own health more, but also just learning so much more about this field and the importance of it. So super cool, and I can't thank her enough, and I can't encourage you to go check her out enough. So that's coming up in a few months, and if you want more information specifically about how yoga can be helpful for your menstrual health, check out our workshop coming up tomorrow. Can't wait. Super excited. And I can't wait to share it all with you. So everyone have a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you for joining World of Yoga Wednesday. We'll see you back next week at noon. And until then, please send me your comments, suggestions, questions about anything that we talked about today, or about something completely unrelated. Just to say hi, whatever you're in the mood for. Everyone have a wonderful Wednesday. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye.